Welcome to Sports Saved My Life. My name is Clayton Freck, and I'm the CEO and founder of Angel City Sports. We know the power of sport to change and in some cases save lives. We hear these compelling stories every day, and we created this show to share them with the world. Enjoy the show, and remember to like, follow, share, and comment.
All right. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing my great friend, somebody who I respect immensely, Lex Gillette. Lex grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, lost his sight as a young boy. We'll hear more on that later. He's an elite track and field athlete on Team USA and has competed at 4 Paralympic Games going back to 2004. He's won 4 silver medals at the Paralympics, and he's also done incredibly well at World Championships, winning 9 medals by my count, 4 gold, 3 silver, 2 bronze. He's a singer, musician, motivational speaker, mentor to many. He's come out to the Angel City Games presented by the Hartford and supported us in our journey at Angel City Sports really from the beginning. He's currently training to make the team for Tokyo trials coming up in a little bit here. And you know, importantly for me, he's really been, I would say, sort of a sage advisor for both me and my son, Ezra, for many, many years. You'll hear him today. He just brings a lot of wisdom to the world, and we're really excited to tap into it today. So welcome to the show, Lex.
Oh, man, what's going on, Clayton? How are you?
Doing well. All right, so the title of the show is Sports Saved My Life.
Okay.
Give me like a quick thought. What comes to mind when I say that?
Sports saved my life. I think that in a lot of ways we're born, we grow up with kids, we're trying to figure out who we are, our personalities, our attitudes, behavior. And so I think that in a lot of ways, when you are introduced to sport, recreational activities, adaptive sport, whatever, adaptive rec, you now step into this environment where it gives you another environment to learn. You learn about yourself, learn about the perseverance that's within, the determination. You learn about others as well. And so I think that being able to participate in those types of things, even though you may not participate in sport for an extended period of time, you're able to take things from that moment, and it's almost like it gives you additional life. It tacks on more years because you know how to navigate, maneuver through the days ahead.
I love that. You bring the wisdom right away.
Man, already.
So imagine, who would you be without sport?
I think that I would probably be a shell of myself. I think that certainly sport, of course, helped change my life in a lot of ways, given the fact of, the obvious, losing my sight as an 8-year-old kid. And that really gave me something that I really believed that I could do. It gave me that one thing that not too many people believed that I could do. But I saw that potential and was like, all right, let's get to it. Let me try this out. And so without sport, without long jump, without track and field, who knows? I might have very well been still looking for that one thing, or I might have been involved in something that really doesn't truly give me that 100% satisfaction.
Yeah. I hear you. So give me one sentence that describes who you are. How do you define yourself?
Oh gosh. I mean, I got to go with, there's no need for sight when you have a vision. Yeah. I got to go with that one. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not the sight, it's the vision. It's being able to see see beyond our current circumstances.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you bring that message everywhere you go, which is so beautiful. All right. So let's take me back to the good old days, right? Childhood. I want to hear about, growing up. What kind of kid were you? What was life like for you and your family? Before losing your sight, what happened after, kind of walk me through the childhood.
Childhood was fun. Childhood was great. My mom and I, we lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. And actually, I think we moved to Raleigh when I was a year old or so, somewhere around there. So all I really know is Raleigh. Prior to that time, we were in my mom's hometown in North Carolina. But a year old, we go to Raleigh, and I'm growing up, and I could see at the time we're playing the video games and Super Mario Brothers and the sports and the Madden and the whatever else I could get my hands on for the game console.
When were you born? Did you grow up in like the 80s, 90s?
I was born in the mid 80s. So I think that I certainly remember a bit of things. And towards the early 90s, I could still see at the time. And
you're like, because I didn't grow up with video games, man. I grew up in the 70s. There were no video games.
Yeah. We had the video games. We had the Nintendos and the Super Nintendos and things like that.
So you're just into games, into playing
playing around, having a good. Mind you, my mom's side of the family, that's the athletic side. So, they played it all from volleyball or softball, baseball, basketball, whatever. There was a ball involved, they probably were in the backyard or on the field playing. And so I think, of course, naturally, I had the athletic gene and had a little bit of athleticism. And so my mom, she would take me outside and we would play. We would go to the park and we'd play catch. And it was a great time. I played rec league baseball when I was young also. So I was out there. I had my glove, And
was baseball your favorite sport when you were a little guy?
Yeah, it was fun. I think, but naturally, again, that was a big sport that was played by my family, softball and baseball. So they were out there all of the time. And I can remember even birthdays or Christmas presents, getting that huge, I called it the Flintstone bat. It's the big bat with the wiffle ball, and you like the bat. You're a small kid, and the bat is probably the size of you.
That, my friend, did not change from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s.
Yes. So I'm a little, 3-4 years old, trying to swing this huge plastic bat and hit this ball. But eventually got a little older, and I started playing more organized baseball, rec league baseball, and was out there in the outfield and doing my thing. Had a nice I think I had a nice swing. And
I like to compare the eras, because in the 70s, the parents just left the door open and you had to go figure your life out. Right. Was your mom around a lot, or were you kind of on your own? What was that living situation like for you?
Yeah, how our house was situated, it was the perfect view for her, because the front door, as soon as you walked into the front door, you walked into the living room area, you continue to walk back towards the back of the house. There was a kitchen and the dining room. So if she was in the dining room, living room, or kitchen, she could easily glance out of the front door. And there was in front of the front door a ledge, this nice, decent sized grassy area where a lot of times I was playing there. And then if I was in the backyard, there was a window above the, overlooking the, if you were standing at the kitchen sink, you could look out the back window and see everything that was going on in the backyard. So more times than not, I was in eyes view. So she was able to keep a watch from a distance. But yeah, to your point, it was definitely a lot of, hey, you got to get outside. I need you to run this energy out, because you can't be in the house running up the walls and causing me to pull my hair out.
What kind of kid were you? Were you shy? Were you outgoing? Like, what was your personality like back then?
I think that I probably was shy. I think shy, but more along the lines of trying to observe and figure out things before I really, really like open up.
Like kind of like more analytical.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
I would say that.
I'm going to observe and learn and figure this thing out before I jump in.
For sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So talk to me about, losing your sight as an 8-year-old and what that process was. I've heard some of this story and it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Just to walk us through that.
I came home from school. I think I'm in the 2nd grade at that time. And I come home from school. I go through my normal routine. So I do my homework, couldn't go outside until I did my homework, go outside, come back in, play the video games, eat dinner with my mom. And that night, as I was inside of the bathroom, I started noticing that things were looking different. So I'm looking down at my hands and I'm actually sitting inside of the bathtub. So I'm taking a bath. I look down at my hands. They're looking blurred. My first thought is, all right, maybe I have some soap in my eyes. Let me wash my eyes and everything will be okay. I get out of the tub, look at the lights in the ceiling still looking a little blurred, get onto the bathroom counter. And that's when I knew something was wrong. As I looked into the mirror, it was this faint, very disfigured reflection of myself. And, you're supposed to look into the mirror and see this clear, crisp image of who you are and the details and all of those types of things. But it was like my eyes couldn't focus. So I told my mom, she had thought maybe I had gotten something in my eyes. I was outside playing around earlier in the day. So maybe I gotten something in my eyes from playing outside. And we cleaned my eyes out with water. Didn't help the situation. Next thought was to go to sleep. Maybe everything would be okay in the morning when I would wake up. Mm. I wake up, nothing had really changed. So like I was saying earlier, it was like I could see at the time, but it was like I couldn't focus. So yeah. I say all of that to say, I still thought that I would be good enough to go to school. I could still see images and although it's not super clear, I think I can make it through the day. So I get dressed, get my backpack, go to school. Halfway through the day, the teachers, they called my mom and they said, hey, we need you to come get Alexis. My mom, nobody was calling me Lex at the time. We need you to come get Alexis because he's acting out of character. He's bumping into things. He's saying that there's something wrong with his eyesight. My mom, she comes to grab me from school. After that, she takes me to the doctor. An examination happens, and that's when they saw that I needed to have an emergency operation because I was suffering from retina detachments.
I was just to say, so honestly, I think these shows are all going to help just educate people, right? That haven't heard of these different things, right?
Yeah.
Disabilities. So was it a big deal that you waited? Like, would things have changed if you got to it like right away, right out of the bathtub, or like does it another day or two? Like, is it like? Yeah,
I don't think that it really.
How does it work?
Yeah, I don't think that waiting around for an extended period of time would have. I don't think that getting to it immediately would have changed the outcome. To me, like
that's what I would have probably done. I'd be like, oh, rub your eyes, go to bed. Let's just deal with this in the morning. Like, I don't think I would have like rushed anybody to the hospital. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because there's so much going on. There's already so much going on within the body. It's just an amazing work of art. And so there's so much going on, and your retina attaches to your eye in, somewhere on the inside of your head. And so to my knowledge, just because it's detached, I don't think that there's any other things that, that could potentially happen that would just totally put you in a space where, oh, this is irreversible. You're not going to be able to see. I think it's just a matter of attaching it again and allowing your eyes to heal properly, and you'll be fine. But I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not an ophthalmologist.
All right, so day 2, right, of your new lower vision, you're told emergency surgery.
Yeah. And we had the operation. So I go through the whole process, get the hospital gown on, the wristband, and all this other stuff. It's an interesting experience. Get through the operation is successful. I could see well for about 3 to 4 weeks, and actually before I even continue on, those first few days after the operation, I have the bandages over my eyes, and it's a gradual healing process. Over the first few days, the eyes are completely covered, and I'm having to go through taking the eye drops and can't really be exposed to a lot of light. My eyes are sensitive, and trying to help that healing process. So over those next few weeks after the bandages have been removed, I was in a good spot. I felt like, okay, things are starting to look a little more clear. I'm able to make out things, but it was still like I could tell that my eyes were still in the process of healing, because it was just so tiring to look at things, and just daylight alone was tough. Eyes are super sensitive.
You're really little going through this process, right? Yeah. Do you remember emotions as you're rolled into the surgery? Like, do you remember being scared, or like, was your mom like keeping you calm, or were you kind of chill about it? Like, did you not, like, what was going through your mind?
I think the first couple ones, I had that type of mindset. Like, all right, let me, in 8-year-old terms, let me trust the process. And the doctors say that everything's going to be okay. And they're using everything is going to be fine. So you're trusting what they're telling you. You have the nice nurses, and they're bringing the ice cream and the gummy bears and stuff like that. So they're rolling out the red carpet for you. So at that age, I'm like, all right, cool. This should work out in my favor. Where those emotions started to really change is when the first, second, and third operations didn't work. And the pattern became, have an operation, I could see well for 3 to 4 weeks. After that time, sight gets blurry again, go back to the doctor, have another examination. Then they tell me that, we have to have another operation. I go back into the hospital and into the operating room to have that operation, get out, go through another 3 to 4 weeks, and so on and so forth. So by the time I got to the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th operations in that 1 year, it was
you had 10 of these surgeries in the first year of losing
1 year.
Vision. Holy cow.
And by the 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on, it was me being ushered into the hospital room, and I still have that chill nature when I get there. But as soon as they get to the point of needing to roll me back to the operating room, that's when everything went haywire, and I hated that feeling. I hated the idea of going back into the operating room and having to go through the anesthesia process, and that there were a couple times where they had to put the mask over my face, and it had such the gas mask specifically. And it has such a weird type of just smell. And I can remember the doctors on the side being like, all right, Alexis, I want you to count from 100 backwards, and let's see how far you can go. And it's 100, 99, 98, 97. By the time I get to 96, I can't even, I'm like almost in la la land. But just the smell of that gas, you being put to sleep, that was terrible. So I was literally, prior to getting into the operating room, when they would, we would be in the pre-op area, pre-op room or whatnot, they would get ready to roll my table back to the operating room. And I'm grabbing the door frame and I'm holding on to it for dear life. And the nurses are trying to rip my hands from.
You're resisting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The nurses are trying to, pull my hands off of the door frame, and my mom is trying to console me. And I'm like, I gotta, somewhere along the way, they get me detached from the door frame and they're rolling me down and they're having to hold my arms and legs down. And I'm almost at the operating room and I'm saying things like, I got to go to the bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom.
You're just pulling any excuse out. Yeah. Whatever you got, you're throwing out.
Yeah. And, and I mean, those were the last few ones. And so it was tough, not only because of the literal aspect of going into the operating room and being put to sleep and then waking up and going through the recovery process and all of those things. But it was just, it then became, all right, is this actually going to work? Mm-hmm. And you told me in the first few times that, all right, this should fix the issue, or, we're going to do what we can. And may not have 100% sight, may not have 20/20 sight, but we're going to do what we can to stabilize the sight that you do have. And for all of those things to transpire in a way that each time is just less and less and less and less sight, I think that the optimism slowly starts to dissipate. And you get to the 10th operation and it's like, all right, like, what are we doing here? What's going to happen? Like, by that point, I think it's like, all right, we need a miracle right now.
I mean, 10 surgeries in a year, it's almost one a month.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was literally in and out of school, in and out of the hospital, more so in and out of the hospital, because I'm not even sure how many days of school I don't know how many days of school I attended that year. But we had that last operation, and somewhere along the way afterwards, I go through that same 3 to 4 week period, a month later. And that's when the news comes that, all right, there's nothing else that we can do. We've tried it all. And the likelihood of your son being blind is pretty high.
Mm. So that you're maybe 9 now, right?
I actually, you know what? So my birthday is later in the year. So I probably had just turned 8.
Okay.
Years old.
You're just so little to have gone through this. I mean, I have an 8-year-old, like, just breaks my heart. So how did you process that news? And had you sort of been preparing for it, given the craziness of all these surgeries? And then how did your mom react?
I think somewhere within my mind, within that young mind, I had already transitioned to that point of, all right, this might be reality. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could truly wrap my head around everything being so young, but I feel like we all at certain times in life, when you're on the doorstep of these like overwhelming obstacles and really daunting things, there's this feeling inside of you that's like, all right, I don't know if this is going to turn out well. And I think that at that age, I had that gut feeling that, all right, I don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be really a good outcome.
And Lex, I see a lot of families, right, coming through Angel City and the community in general. And like, sometimes I feel like the kids handle that news better than their parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's about your mom. I'm curious, like, but like it does seem like kids somehow had this ability to accept reality, which is sort of mind blowing.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. That's definitely an accurate statement. Like kids are so, kids are number one, they're learning, like they're trying to figure out themselves and figure out this world that they're living in. And so as you grow older and you become more established and you graduate from school or if you don't go to school, like maybe you get a job and you have a family, et cetera. And you start to look at the world through a certain lens. And each day is one of those days where it's like, all right, well, this is the pattern. This is, what I'm used to. And you kind of get in a routine. Mm-hmm. And so when that routine is thrown off course, then it's like, what the heck is going on here? Like, I can't deal with this. It's just, I don't know. Some people, it's really tough for them versus a kid. I feel like, man, kids are just so resilient. And even though.
Just what you just said, the fact that we become less resilient through our lives is sort of mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of crazy because you think we would learn that like there's going to be a lot of crap coming our way, and sometimes it hits us in childhood, sometimes it hits us later in life, but like there's going to be something, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me. So I've heard you talk about your mom, and how she was there for you and got you right, sort of helped you sort of see this new world or accept the new world or however you want to. But talk about your mom. Talk about that transition to a life without vision.
Yeah, I think that. So you asked how did my mom take it? I think that my mom is really strong. She's a really strong woman. And
I need to meet her one of these days. By the way, I mean, I'm
gonna have to bring her.
This woman.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Man, and that's crazy because did you go to trials in 2016?
No,
you didn't.
Oh, the one in LA?
No, in Charlotte.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Man, you should have came. Could have met my mom. I could have got you a nice little home cooked meal.
Oh,
hooked you up with cornbread and the mac and cheese and stuff. Yeah, we had a good time. But my mom, she's a strong person, and so I think that even though she probably felt that immense amount of pain, I never really saw it. No pun intended. Mm-hmm. And she
another silver lining.
Yeah.
Your mom is maybe sad or.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure she's talked about, there's been nights where she's cried a lot and wondered, all right, well, number one, how am I going to tell my son that he's not going to see again? And then number two, what are the next steps? What do we need to do to ensure that he has a satisfying life and a fulfilling life?
What does she know about being blind at this point in her life?
Well, that's the funny thing, because my mom actually has glaucoma. However, at this time in life, like her, probably the only thing that she can't do is drive. Like her sight is really good. So, so she knows a thing or two about visual impairment, but again, like as a parent, and you could probably speak to this, you have a child and, you wouldn't want any of those things to, you just want your kid to grow up, to have an amazing life. I don't think any parents want their child to be blind or want their child to be missing a limb or any of those things. But when it happens, you figure out how to set the course and figure out a great plan so that they can be successful in life. And so I think that for her, she was like, all right, well, what's next? And I think she used a lot of her strength to push forward, but I was able to thrive off of her strength also. And so she gave me that time to heal and to grieve and to, kind of wrap my head around things. And she told me that, you might you're probably not going to be able to see anymore. And so I grew up in North Carolina. We were at church every Sunday, going to Sunday school, going to, listen to the service and go to Bible study on Wednesday nights. And so I say all of that to say, my mom, I think she was in like the common room, the living room area, and she's like praying. And she told me that I ran up to her as she was praying, and I tap her and I say, "Hey, mom, I need to learn how to read dots." And so when I told her that, she said that was a confirmation that she needed to let her know that, you know what, my son, he understands it. And by me saying, I need to learn how to read dots, that was me saying, Mom, I need to learn how to read Braille.
Yep. Sure.
And so from there, it was on and popping. She was like, all right, my son, he gets it. Let's figure out what else do we need. And she found different resources and programs and tools and technology, anything that she could find. She was searching high and low, left to right, so that I would have everything that I would need to go into the world and be successful. And in the home environment, she was, not when I was 8 or 9, but as I began to get a little older, then it was, all right, you got to learn how to take out the trash. You got to learn how to clean your room. You got to learn how to vacuum. You got to learn how to wash the dishes, wash your clothes, and do all of these things.
So she got you doing chores just like
just like anybody else, And I'm pretty sure her friends and certain people in our family probably were like, man, what is going on here? But, she was like, listen, I just want, at the end of the day, number one, first and foremost, I want my son to be able to go into the world, be self-sufficient, be independent, be able to survive on his own, so he won't have to depend on everyone else.
I love that. I mean, you see it in the community, right? You see some parents that baby their kids, and the kids don't learn how to fall down. They don't learn how to get back up. They don't learn how to do some of this stuff. Yeah. I do think, right, sport is a great place where we get to pull the kids away from the parents for at least a little bit, right? And you can get some of those lessons, but I don't know if sport can overcome that parenting. I don't know.
I'd like to take a quick break to show you how you can get involved as a volunteer with Angel City Sports.
Are you interested in supporting Angel City Sports? We're seeking volunteers to help organize clinics and events, as well as support our athlete outreach efforts, marketing and media, and even fundraising and development. All skill sets and backgrounds are welcome in support of our mission to provide free adaptive sport opportunities for children, adults, and veterans with physical disabilities or visual impairments. For our younger athletes, we welcome you to join the Angel City Youth Leadership Council. Middle and high school age students are eligible to join the Youth Leadership Council, where you will learn about the disabled community by working side by side with our athletes and acquire important skills such as teamwork, leadership, philanthropy, and event management. To sign up for our volunteer newsletter and stay up to date on all upcoming opportunities, visit angelcitysports.org.
So how was it like going back to the neighborhood to hang with the kids, your buddies on the street, or going back to school and your classmates? How did they accept the new Lex they couldn't see? Like how did that work?
My friends who really, really know me, they actually helped out a lot, because those days where I was wanting to stay inside, they would come and knock on the door and say, hey, Miss Verdina, can Alexis come outside? Like we want to play outside. And so it really, that helped me, because I'm thinking to myself that, my friends, they still want to play and we're going to be friends. And I think that even though they had questions, it felt, I was a lot more comfortable with them, because they knew me. And I'm pretty sure sometimes the questions were unbearable isn't the right word, but I'm pretty sure the questions were a little uncomfortable at times, because I didn't really know how to explain the situation. The only thing I knew was that I couldn't see. And so long story short, I think they really helped me because they continued to still to say, all right, we like, hey, Lex, come outside, let's play. When I would get to school, it was a different situation. I definitely had my friends who knew me, but similarly, it was like, all right, how am I going to explain this to my friends? And then for the people who I didn't really know, that just became more awkward. It's like, all right, how am I going to, again, explain to them? But, it was just an interesting time. But even beyond the students, the teachers also, like, I think a lot of times they were trying to figure out how we're going to accommodate for this child. How are we going to help this kid continue learning, not only in the classroom, but in PE. And so in school, although I didn't go to a school for the blind, I had a teacher of the visually impaired. So this was a person who would make sure that I had everything that I would need from an accessibility standpoint. So I had the Braille readers and the books in Braille and the computers with the speech software on it, so I could type my homework and classwork. And we have Braillists. So Braillists are people who can take a handout that a teacher may give to you, say today. The Braillists can take that handout, they could transcribe that and turn it around and give it to the student, say in a couple hours, or depending on how long the handout is, they might have to wait until the next day. So
well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I had all of those resources available, which is what helped me to maintain that public school setting. And then I also went through you probably know about the IEPs, the individualized education plans, and you have those meetings at the beginning of the school year, and your parents and teachers and everybody gets together and they set the course for the year. So honestly, those were really important for my mom, because that was where she was able to say, hey, this is what I expect from my son. These are the things that I would like for you to do. I set a certain environment. I have a certain environment and things that I expect from him when I'm at home. And so when he goes to school, I need some of these things to continue, because I don't want him to, use the blindness as, I don't know, like there's no pity parties around here.
Yeah, she's keeping you honest all the way through the day. Yeah. So when I look at your story, right, you've got amazing mother, you've got a great group of friends that didn't seem to care that you lost your vision. Your school accommodated you, right? Sounds like really well. Things are kind of like, right, moving in the right direction for you. Were there moments in those early days, like thinking through even high school, like where you were up against it, you were challenged? Were there moments where you had self-doubt or sort of self-confidence issues? Or were you really just sort of a happy, well-adjusted kid that sort of just happened to lose the sight?
I think a lot of the challenges came from a social aspect. So it was always dealing with the outsiders and other people who didn't understand, and people who would look at me in this less than type of lens, or incapable type of perspective. And that is where I was like, all right, like this is challenging. Like this is super tough. And you think about that from the child who's in middle school and high school. Now you're growing up, and your body is changing, and mind is changing, and things like that. And you're trying to make friends, et cetera, et cetera. And then on top of that, I'm trying to maneuver through life without being able to physically see it. So I made friends who understood, and then I just ran up against those people who didn't have a clue. And that's when it was really disheartening, and like, all right, I went through the phase of, using my cane, having to navigate. I went through that phase of not wanting to use it because I was different, and just the sound of like, oh.
How old were you when you went through that? So you ditched the cane for a little bit?
Yeah, I'm 11, 12, 13. So I'm in middle school.
So now you're trying to navigate middle school without a cane.
I'm navigating the middle school without the cane. And so I was doing a doggone good job at it too, because mind you, like when I had lost my sight, when I was back in the neighborhood, I started to learn how to navigate my neighborhood just based off of the feel and the energy and where things were located. So I knew that when I would get off of the school bus, they would drop me off at the sidewalk. I knew that when I was on the sidewalk, I turned to the left-hand side and I walk about 4 or 5 paces forward. And my feet are eventually going to reach the concrete and the grass. So I knew that once I hit that, then I would turn to the right-hand side, turn to my right, walk 1 step, and that would take me to the 3 stairs, walk up the 3 stairs, make a left-hand turn, boom, walk another 4 to 5 paces. Then I would bust that right-hand turn, and I knew that I would be in front of my apartment. And so if I wanted to really, make sure that was where I needed to be, I could just stick my right hand out. And after that 5th pace, my hand would hit the handrail. That was my home. Walk up those 5 stairs. That gets me to the front door, walk inside, I'm at home. And when you're in your house, I mean, for anybody, if you live in your house for a certain period of time, you know your house because that's your environment, that's your dwelling. And so once I'm inside, I'm safe, I'm good to go. So circling back to middle school, I took that same energy to middle school. So I would dish the cane. I knew where all of my classes were located. I knew how many, I wasn't like too big into counting my steps. For me, it was always the feeling, because you can feel when hallways open. You can feel when doorways.
A professional step counter now.
Man, hey, exactly. And so the school wasn't massive or anything like that, but it was just big enough that I could navigate without the cane. But there was, it was a blessing and a curse, because since I was able to navigate around so good, it got to the point where certain people didn't believe, or they were confused as to how much I could actually see. And so, now, like, let's say if we...
what, at this point, what could you see? I mean, it's like...
light perception at the most. So I could tell you if the light was on, if the light was off.
But they doubted you. They thought you were sandbagging your discipline.
Oh yeah, they thought that there was a little more than what I was putting on. And
not only do you get people thinking, right, that you can't do things because you're blind, you get people thinking that you're lying about the fact that you're blind. Yeah, win either way.
Exactly.
How did you get back in sport, and like when did you find, adaptive and Paralympic sport?
I had a teacher visually impaired. His name was Brian Whitmer. He was the one who made sure I had everything, Braille books, Braillists, made sure everything was good from an academic standpoint. He also accompanied me to PE class. He made sure that the PE environment.
Every day?
When I had first gotten there as a freshman, since I was first being, introduced to new classes, new teachers, et cetera. Yeah, he was there every day. I would say for the first month or so.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So he's coming with you to PE to make sure you're included in the PE.
Exactly. Yeah, he was making sure that environment was an inclusive one. And because it was so easy for teachers to say, all right, well, this kid is blind. We're playing dodgeball or kickball or shooting baskets today. We don't want him to get hurt. Why don't you just go out to study hall. You can hit that homework early. You can get your classwork done, whatever. But we don't want to get you hurt. Mr. Whitmer was more along the lines of, all right, the only thing wrong with Lex is he doesn't have eyesight. He has his hands, he's got legs, everything. Like, we're going to figure out a way to adapt these activities in a way that he'll be able to participate as well. So that's what he was doing. He was, working alongside me And if we were playing kickball, I would kick the ball. He would run with me from base to base.
Serious?
Yeah. If we were shooting baskets, he would literally take my cane and tap the rim. Ding, 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 ding. So I got the ball in my hand, shoot, put the ball in the hole. And so
Are
it was
you
just,
kidding me?
yeah. And so
That's
it's just,
so cool.
it's just little like adjustments like that. Even when we were playing golf, there were times when we would play golf and he would take his, he could have like some keys or something and just jingle his keys above the hole. And when I say golf, more along the lines of like putt-putt golf.
Yeah.
And so he's just figuring out ways to adjust and adapt different things so that I can participate. But the cool thing about it is when he finally stopped coming as consistently, now when I would show up to gym class, all of the students, Lex, you can come play on our team. We want Lex on our team. Or the teachers would now say, all right, Lex, you're gonna go over here. You're gonna go to this group. Da 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 da. When in times prior, it would have been, all right, we got to let Lex. Lex, you need to sit this one out, or your homework's calling your name. Like, go ahead and get that homework done.
In another way, he sort of helped educate your classmates and the regular PE coaches.
Totally transformed.
That you could do just about everything.
Totally transformed the classroom, transformed people's minds. And that was, that was huge. That was super huge. But we had a physical fitness test that we had to participate in one day. Test where you do as many pull-ups as you can do, push-ups, sit-ups, those types of things. And one of the activities was standing long jump. And that day we got 2 jumps. First one was pretty good. That second one I took, arms back, knees bent. Wow. So I jumped and my feet hit the ground. Mind you, everyone else could see, and they're just going bonkers by this point. Oh my gosh, like this is so crazy. Like let's jump way farther than y'all did, and y'all can see. This is, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
You jump farther than everybody else?
Yeah, but I didn't know how far I had jumped. I only knew because of the auditory feedback, because of the responses from my students.
The crowd.
Yeah. So finally, Mr. Whitmer, he runs up to me and he's like, Lex, they measured your jump and you jumped 10 feet from a standstill. And that's when everything really took a turn. And he told me about the Paralympics, told me about potentially traveling the world and representing Team USA and winning medals and breaking records. And
does he know what you've accomplished?
Right now?
Yeah. Does he
man.
Are you in touch? Like, does he know where you?
Oh gosh, I probably talked to him last week, I think. Yeah, we may not talk on the phone all of the time, but there's definitely text messages sent pretty.
How often do you have a conversation with this sweet little high school kid and plant a vision in their head like that, and then they go off and do it? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's
nice. Yeah. It's wild to think about.
This is so
wild to think about. And that was, this is what, 2021? We're probably at 20 years from when he introduced me to the long jump.
Yeah. What are you, 14, 15? You're in high school?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that's cool.
So
does he, the standing jump is different than a long jump.
It is, yeah.
You're running. Does he help you figure out how to do a traditional long jump?
So he takes me down to the track and he shows me everything about the long jump. He shows me about the runway. This is where you run. This is how wide the runway is. This is how long the runway is. He shows me that there's a takeoff board in the ground. Shows me how wide the long jump pit is, how long the long jump pit is. And I think that
went and literally felt the whole.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And even if it was, I would touch the takeoff point, the takeoff board with my hands, but everything else, my feet are just as important and just as sensitive as my hands. So I'm able to feel the textures and difference in the ground under my feet as we walk. And so I'm like, okay, well, the runway is probably, 3 3 or 4 feet wide, give or take. And I got this long jump pit that's X number of feet long, and it's a big rectangle. It's a huge sandbox. And I feel like, again, tapping into those navigational skills and ability to envision. That's what I did when I was in my neighborhood, where I grew up when I lost my sight. That's what I used to navigate around my middle school. I create these images in my head. And so I did the same thing with the long jump area, and I was able to really to see that, oh, okay, well, these are the boundaries. This is what I have to work with. But I still didn't connect the dots with running and jumping. At that time, I was still under the impression that, okay, well, I'm going to stand at this takeoff board and I'm going to jump. But Mr. Whitmer, he was like, nah, in the games, you have to run and jump. That's when I was like, no, I'm not. I'm really? Not doing it. Like, this is absolutely, this is crazy. I'm not. No.
Hold on. Can you run though?
I could run, but there's a difference between just
with a guide or just running on your own.
No, just running on my own. Yeah. So I wasn't participating in any organized running events. Like up until that point, I was playing goalball. I played goalball a little bit.
Okay.
I was on my high school wrestling team, and I played beat baseball. So the running that I would do in beat baseball, that was probably the most running that I had ever done to that point.
All right. So how does he get you to take that first jump?
Literally just said, all right, we got to get you to run and jump. And so he takes me to the sand pit, and he's telling me that I'm going to stand at this takeoff point. Mm-hmm. I'm going to clap and yell, straight. And I want you to run as fast as possible to the sound of my voice, as straight as possible. And at the right step, we're going to jump. In the beginning, it was short. It was something really simple. So what he did was he actually positioned me at the long jump pit. So just before you take a step into the pit, that's where I'm standing. Mm-hmm. He turned me in a way where now my back, the long jump pit, is behind me. Mm-hmm. He asked me to take 5 huge steps forward.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. He walks to me. He turns me around 180. So now I'm facing the long jump pit. So I've always been really good at math. So in my head, I'm like, all right, I think I know what's about to happen. I took 5 steps this way. I take 5 steps back the other way. Wham, bam. I'm gonna be at the long jump pit. And so he's like, all right, now I want you to listen to the sound of my voice and take 5 steps and just hop into the sand. Straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take a little baby hop. It's awkward. Yeah, it's super awkward. In all transparency, I don't even remember if I took a baby hop or any sort of jump, anything remotely close to elite that first one. I think it probably was just me running through the sand pit.
What did it feel like?
It was scary. Like you're thinking that, all right, I might fall down, hurt myself. I could twist an ankle. There's a lot of things that could totally go wrong in this moment. Mr. Whitmer's mindset was, I'm like, oh, okay, there's so much that can go wrong. His mindset is there's so much that can go right.
I don't know how many times it's happened to you, but I believe it's happened to you where you've actually missed the pit.
Yeah.
Jump. So this is Lex flying through the air, 20 plus feet, but not landing in the sand, landing on the side of the pit. Talk to me about that. And how do you get your mind back to stay focused on that event or the next event or whatever, right?
Yeah. The 2015 instance that was probably the worst encounter I had with landing outside of the pit, because I landed literally full body outside. But it wasn't I've had introductions and meetups with the side of the pit before. It could have been me like hitting an ankle outside of the pit, or maybe one side of my bottom or whatever. So it wasn't the first time, but definitely the worst out of the ones that I've had. And to be clear too, it hasn't happened much. I mean, I could probably count on one hand, maybe 1.5 hands, how many times it's happened over jumping in 20 years.
Thank God.
And so I'm gonna circle back to that in a second. But at World Championships, this is the next highest competition behind the Paralympics. And the only reason it's not the Paralympics is because you don't have the other sports involved. But these are a lot of the same competitors who you're going to see at the Paralympic Games, just at the World Championships, Para-Athletics World Championships. And so I'm out there, and it's the best of the best athletes from around the globe. It's my 4th attempt. I'm running. Get to that point. It's time to jump. Boom, jump. For a split second, I asked myself, or I told myself, all right, you can either abort mission now, or you can land this jump. And so when I say abort mission, that basically means that when you jump, you don't have to totally land in the sand. You can pop up and land flat-footed and continue walking off and going about your business.
Oh, so that's really so something about the jump felt
different, yeah. And I knew, and so to take you into my mind, when I jumped, I felt my body shift to the right-hand side a little bit. And that was caused because of my run wasn't exactly straight. So when I took off and I shifted to the right-hand side, and I felt myself traveling to the right-hand side. So if you can imagine, if we're watching like a really dope movie and there's that one scene where there's no dialogue going on, there's a really beautiful score playing and it's like slow motion on the screen. And it's like, oh man, what's about to happen? That's what was going on in my head. Everything slowed down and it was almost like an eternity. And again, I was like, all right, you can either not land this jump or you can land this jump. We're at World Championships. So I'm like, man, listen, this is the last meet of the year. I'm about to let it all, I'm trying to win. Whatever happens, happens. And so when I landed the jump, I landed on the side of the pit, which is essentially, that's concrete. And although I popped up, did it hurt? Yeah, it hurt. But I had so much adrenaline going on and I was so locked into the competition. It was like, all right, first of all, am I okay? I had gashed my elbow really good and we already wear very minimal, the tights and the tank top. You have very little clothing on.
You're right.
And it's not that thick. So when I landed on the side of the pit and I skidded a little bit, now the back of my tights it's exposed. So now I'm moving in the crowd. So I'm like, all right, all right, what's next? And so Wesley comes over and the officials are there. Kathy Sellers is in the stands and she's asking me, am I okay? Yelling from the stands. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I just need to get some new tights. And the officials, they were contemplating removing me from the competition. But the next plan of action was, all right, he needs to go to the medical tent so we can make sure everything is okay. And if everything's fine, then, we'll let him come back to the competition. That was my 4th jump. We only get 6. So we had to hurry over to the medical tent. I'm on the back of the golf cart and they're taking me through a few tests and things like that. They get my arm bandaged up. we get back to the jump area, and Wesley, he might have gave me a pair of tights that he had out of his bag. So I was able to put those on and cover up that exposed area in my tights in the back. So now fast forward to, I had missed my 5th jump because that's how much time we were taking up at the medical tent. So now I only have 1 jump remaining, and there's maybe a couple competitors ahead of me right now. So at that time I was like, listen, Wesley, we and I can't remember what words exactly I said it in, but I was like, I'm good. Definitely, I got a little road rash or whatnot, elbow hurts, but I'm good. I was certainly a little embarrassed, I would say, because I've been on the sidelines when that's happened to other competitors. And I was always that person, oh man, that's crazy. No, that's not going to happen to me. I'm fail proof. This is I got the world record. Like this is me. I'm good. And so for that to happen, it was, certainly in certain ways, it was a humbling experience. And, but it just also concreted the fact that I've always known in the back of my head that every single time that I step on the runway, there is a possibility that something like that could happen. Mm-hmm. The pit is only so big. And if you jump and you don't maintain a straight line, then you could land on the side. And so I just wanted to let Wesley know that we're a team at the end of the day. And sure, he's able to see it, and a lot of people, looked at him and blamed him. Like, what were you doing? Why did you allow him to continue running? Da 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 da. But that stuff doesn't really matter to me. And so when I had mentioned to you about it's maybe happened, a handful of times, a hand and a half amount of times over 20 years. If you were to holler at any baseball player and they were like, all right, I bat 992 out of 1,000. Mm-hmm. They're going to take that every single day of the week. Oh, I bat 992. Mm-hmm. If you take a basketball player and they shoot 92 out of 100 free throws successfully, they make them. They're going to take that every single day of the week. Those 8 that they miss, or those 8 strikeouts that baseball player had, they're going to be like, oh man, you focusing on that? Yeah. What about all of these base hits I've had, these singles and triples and homers, right? So it was that same type of situation. We've been competing together, Wesley and I, for 14 years. And that was one moment out of probably thousands of jumps that we've been able to facilitate together. And so I will take that every single time. So Wesley,
you shook it off. You're back at it.
Yeah. So I literally just told him I trust you. Just trust me to do my thing. And we get back out there, 6 jump, fly, boom, hit the jump. And that ended up that was my best jump of the competition. And we got on the podium, gold medal.
All right, I'm gonna shift into our final segment here, which is around digging into your soul. And I want to lead it with a question that I usually ask folks, which is, what advice would you give to a younger version of yourself? Or if it makes more sense for you, parents of a child that we're going through what you went through. What do you tell people?
I would tell the child that you ultimately, at the end of the day, you decide what you can do and no one else. You're going to have a lot of people in the world who will try to place their expectations on you. They're going to say you should do this or you shouldn't do that, or you could do this and you could do that. They're going to believe that you can do certain things and they're going to believe that you can't do certain things. But at the end of the day, try as many things as possible and know that you decide what you can do, and that's not anyone else's decision to make. What I would say to parents is to allow your kid to be free. And of course, relatively speaking, obviously as a parent, if you see your kid in some sort of situation where danger is at the doorstep, then, you're going to take the necessary precautions to make sure that they're safe. But outside of that, allow them to discover, allow them to explore, to figure things out, and allow them to, fall down and get back up. And I'm not speaking about all of these things in the context of potentially your kids being an athlete, just literally in the context of them knowing that they can persevere and knowing that they have what it takes internally to keep pushing forward through life. And they have to understand, I think, that they're going to face some challenges and obstacles in life, but even beyond that, helping them to learn that they have what it takes, and there's different things that can be, there's different strategies and things that you can put in place, or there's a certain mindset that you need to have to keep pushing forward. So, but I think it ultimately starts with allowing them to spread their wings and fly and figure things out, and get a few bumps and bruises here and there.
Right. Love that. Let them be free. What has your disability taught you?
Blindness has taught me that this is my blank slate. I think that in the beginning is, building off of the question before, talking about what would I say to the younger me. I think that, sometimes we are, we conform and we follow with the crowd and we do what they're doing and because they're doing it it makes it cool and it's the trendy thing to do. But for me, blindness has given me that blank slate, and I believe that I'm able to, in other words, create the world that I want to see. And create the world where I want to dwell, in the world where I want to live. And I'm not having to see people's disapproval and approval and see their mannerisms. If I say, oh, well, I want to go and jump to the moon, if I believe that I can do it, then, I have that blank slate to see that, and to not only see that, to have that ability to use that slate to develop that plan and draw it up as I see fit.
Love it. Love it. This one's a deep one for some. I think you're going to find it quickly, but what do you think your purpose is?
I think my purpose is to teach people to see. It could be seeing their potential, could be them seeing their ability to persevere, or courage, or determination, or just so many different things that in a lot of ways we all have blind spots. So we all at some point in time will experience figurative blindness. And so being able to shed light on those areas that will help people continue pushing forward in their personal journeys and their professional journeys or athletic journeys or whatever.
I love that. I like to say, before Ezra was born, that I was blind to disability. I literally just didn't even notice it. I didn't see it. I didn't engage in it. It was nothing to me.
Yeah.
Right? And it kind of breaks my heart, but I guess that's the journey that I had to go on,
Yeah.
it opened my eyes, right?
But I think, like, in certain, I don't think that you or anyone in that position should beat themselves up because, we all go through those areas where you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But where the transformation happens is once you're exposed to it, now you have the responsibility to, all right, how can I positively change the narrative, right? So,
right.
I
think that's a good point, right? Yeah. Once you're able to see, what do you do?
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. Now it's like, all right, you don't have an excuse to continue to allow A, B, C, and D to happen. Like you got a responsibility now.
For sure. Like, what other life goals do you have? Like, what do you want to achieve, and like, what do you want people to write about you when you retire, like from life, from career, or whatever else you got, what do you want to achieve?
I want to, one of my big aspirations is to help athletes, all athletes, but specifically Paralympians, because that's, I'm a Paralympian and a lot of athletes out there have amazing stories and some of the athletes I'm really close with and they're amazing souls. And so one of the areas where I think that there could be some improving is just the marketing side of things and helping athletes to understand what they can do and things that they can implement to increase their stock from a branding standpoint. And their athletes are always on that sponsor chase, right? You want to be that athlete who is represented by who represents the Nikes and the Procter & Gamble's and the Coca-Colas and all of these companies who are sponsors of the USLPC. But even beyond that, there's so many different ways that you can brand yourself, that you can market yourself, and all of those sponsors are absolutely incredible companies who help us on this journey. But for those athletes who don't have that ability or that opportunity to be connected with them in a direct fashion, there's still ways that there's things that you can do to connect with local companies and things that you can do to help within your community and to continue building your stock and your brand. And so I want to be able to offer that type of support because my journey was a little unconventional. I wasn't introduced to an agent immediately and so want to be able to provide support in that capacity. That's a huge goal of mine. And and I want to continue to speak and just continue having a good time. That's at the end of the day, just having a good time.
I love it. All right, before we wrap up, I want to give you the mic for two reasons. One is just anything that pops to mind that you haven't shared with us so far, whether it's shout outs, people on your team and your background that you want to acknowledge, whatever. And two is just make sure you communicate to the listeners, kind of where they can find you.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the last part, the latter part of that. You can find me everywhere. Social media at Lex Gillette, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LexGillette.com. That's my website, not my email address. Where else am I? Goodness gracious. I mean, if you hit me up on the social media, I'm pretty responsive and always love to hear from people. But yeah, shout outs, definitely my mom and Mr. Whitmer and man, just shout out to God, like just for even like I'm here on earth and I feel like I was definitely blessed from above for sure. My mom, Coach Whitmer, so many different counselors, Mrs. Sherman, Miss Childs, Miss Stover, my brothers, Miss Fuller, so many different people again who helped me from an academic standpoint, from a resource standpoint. Christine from when I was going to Parks and Rec as a kid and going to the summer camps and drinking that bug juice with those crackers and bug juice is not literal bug juice, but it was just a little, just a little Kool-Aid or something, like some little concoction that they used to create that was nothing but sugar that would have all the kids running around like crazy in the afternoon. Oh man. And just anybody, anybody who I've come in contact with who've offered a piece of advice, who have helped me along the way, they're really, really special to me. Jerome Avery, got to give a shout out to him. All of the amazing Paralympians out there, the April Holmeses and the Marlon Shirleys and the Tatiana McFaddens and the Jeff Skibas and the Jerome Singletons and the Roger Townsends. And if I didn't say your name, it's not because I didn't love you. I know I'm just trying to ramble off people's.
It's a big team, man.
Jessica Longs and the Becca Myers and the Katie Holloways and the Tyler Mirrens, the goalball players. Goodness gracious. Just a beautiful community, right? Everybody. But last but not least, Wesley Williams, for sure. He's my guy. I mentioned him briefly earlier, 14 years in the making. I always tell him, I tell people when we do these interviews that I need to do some research on what's the average length of a marriage in America, because I think that we have surpassed what that average might be. 14 years of being able to travel together, to train together, to compete together. That's a testament to just growth and development and our ability to evolve as human beings. And not only are we great friends on the track, we're great friends off of the track, go to movies, and we've, double date here and there, go to the beaches in San Diego, have a good time. But I'm going to say 7 to 8 years ago, actually, let me take it back to the beginning. And when we first started working together, his call when we're on the long jump area, the long jump pit, his call was straight. I'm going to say 2 to 3 years later, it became lie. And lie is the Chinese equivalent of straight. And around 2013 or 2014, somewhere in there, he started yelling, fly. I don't know where it came from, but he starts to yell fly. And, it's something that he can yell really, really loud. And it just, sounds good. And after a while, it became much more than just a word that he would yell. And it became more than just this call. And I think that in a lot of ways, he helped me to literally and figuratively fly. And every time that we're out there on the runway, I tell people gravitational pull to me is created by outsiders. It's created by naysayers. It's created by people who they impose on you their expectations and what they think you should do. And they talk and they talk. And for me, when I'm on the runway, there's no one who could tell me anything at all, because that is my space. That's my safe haven. And for 20 years now, I've been able to run, jump, and to fly. And for a moment in time, I'm suspended in the air and I'm defying gravity. And gravity is people's just totally backwards and sideways and negative views that they have towards me or anyone else who has a disability. And in that moment of time, and who cares what you have to say? I'm flying.
I really love Lex's story, especially the importance of his mother and his coach in shaping the man and legendary athlete he has become. Stay tuned for the next episode, which features Nick Rogers, a double above knee amputee who recently made his second Paralympic team and will be competing for gold in Tokyo.